I'm excited for our admin team to finally be invested with both authority and responsibility. I don't think in my time with IECC, the presidents and the now what we're including to have vice chancellor roles, they've had the titles, and I think a lot of times when something goes wrong, we've gone back to them and said, why did this go wrong? But as we're moving into our new structures, and I've told the vice chancellors this as well, I envision my cabinet going away. And I envision each one of them developing their own, whether they call it a cabinet or a management team, so that we can make decisions about academic affairs or student affairs, operational decisions locally and quickly, so we can actually start being a nimble organization. So I'm really excited to see how each one of them steps up to say, I am now responsible for this area, and they're going to make those decisions locally. I think that's going to be a neat twist for us. There's no question, I would love to say, well, now I get to just wash my hands and go plan for something new. I think my role is really going to be one of conducting and resource allocation, because we are not going to be able to do this unless we've got the resources plugged in behind it. Part of that resource allocation comes to Ryan and I to make sure that as we're building the budgets, we're putting the money where it needs to go, so that, and this happens here a lot, well, we really need to do this, but there was no funding put behind it. And then the other part of it is, we've been operating with a $32 million budget, operational budget, really for the better part of a decade. So I think it really falls to me to work both with our board and with institutional outreach, government relations, to say, how do we take that $32 million operational budget and move it to 33 to 34, because things aren't getting cheaper. And every year that we continue to operate with a $32 million operating budget, it means there's something that's going unaddressed. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that's been our facilities and our grounds. And unfortunately, a lot of that's been our people. And I'm not okay with either of those. So I think that's what some of my job, in probably 2 years from now, I'll have a lot more time to focus on that. But I think for the next 18 months, I need to be a conductor, and I'm also the accountability tool of the organization to say, we said we were going to do this, did we do it? So the whole purpose of SEPC is to make sure that we have a body that is thinking long-term. I think that's one of the things that I do fairly well, is I tend to look a year, 2 years, 3 years out. Now, I think a drawback that I have from that is sometimes I miss the operational pieces right in front of me, and that's why I need to have a real good team of people around me. But I think it's really important for IECC to have a group of people that is looking for, here's where we want to be 3 years from now, so we can start building the steps to get there. We have been, as an organization, very reactionary, and I would like to see us become more proactive. And you don't do that without strategic thinking. So that's one role for the SEPC. The other role, and it really just comes down to pragmatism, at some point, we have to establish what our priorities are, because we have a shared pool of resources. And it is ultimately not healthy to have an organization that just says, no, we can't afford that. The answer has to be yes. We have to move the organization. So we have to have a group that says, yes, we're going to do it, and what pieces are we going to shuffle in order to make that yes a reality. So that's the other part that we've intended the SEPC for, and we've one example where we really did that, I thought, very well as a team, and it was last year. We had budgeted $1 million, which was a huge chunk of money for IECC, to invest back into our CTE programs. In years past, Jessica, what we'd have done is we'd have said, you get $250,000, you get $250,000, you get $250,000, and it just gets diffused. And we didn't do that this time. We really sat back, we looked at data, and we said, where are jobs growing? We looked at enrollment, and where do we have programs that are enrolled? We looked at where we'd spent money. We had a lot of programs that had received Title IX. Nursing was getting a lot of PATH funding. So we looked at that, and as a team, we had everybody kind of develop their wish list, talking to their faculty. They were supposed to talk to their faculty, and I think they did. talking to their faculty, what's the wish list, and then we stepped back as a team. We said, we're not going to think about this as Lincoln Trail, Wabash, Alney, and Fairfield. We're going to look at this as IECC's leadership team. Where do we need to put the money? And we did. And it was really nice to see the leadership come together and to see that we could, even though we've got all the school pride, take that LTC or WVC off for a minute and think as a district. So I think we're going to see that continue to happen more and more.